I'm enjoying this Jonathan Ross interview. What about y'all? I think it's time to get to part 3. Let's get to it.
It's more than a statement, it's a way of life. Celebration. The Miss Jessie talking.
Wait, do that for
stop.
me.
Do you like having your fingers sucked? Come on now, that everybody digs that.
You know, maybe not really, I don't know.
Do you like having any other part of your body
yes,
sucked?
yes. There's an affirmative in there somewhere trying to get out.
Well, it's kind of like that, I think. I mean, the great thing about your toes being sucked is that it's not something, you know, I mean, toes are always, I mean, you stand on your feet all day, they're sweaty, they're enclosed in socks and shoes, and it's kind of exotic, you know what I mean?
No, I'm sorry. Y'all can keep the corn chips. keep the fungus, keep all of that.
You're not doing a great job of selling this to me.
Ah, okay, well,
See,
I enjoy it, that's all,
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, I can see it on the
I
giving.
know other people that enjoy
I
it.
give to you. I choose not to receive.
Okay. It's very big of you.
So, okay. I could talk all day about it, though.
So could I.
Can I talk about something else which isn't specific in the pictures, in the photographs in the book, but it's in the text, which is, you talk about anal sex.
I do?
Oh, yes.
I talk about it one
Hey, it just went straight for the kill, right?
time.
Once was enough for me. Whoop! Logged in there for life. And I can't remember, perhaps you would give me the quote, but the statement was something
It's
along the
a
lines
joke,
of...
it's a joke. It's Dita, there's a through line in the book where Dita's talking to her doctor. And he says, do you think, as if you come into the middle of a session of analysis, he says, well, do you think it's possible to experience pain and pleasure at the same time? And it's meant to be witty. And I say, yeah, that's what ass fucking is all about. Am I getting bleeped right now?
No, I think we'll probably leave that in. Demonstration will be a problem, but we can talk about it.
I'll say.
There's a
It's a joke. It's a joke.
No, it's being received as one. I just had to ask you because obviously it's in there and it's one of the more provocative jokes in the book.
Yeah.
But having said that, there is obviously we're talking about very specific acts here.
Yeah.
And there's not a disclaimer so much, but a kind of message which I imagine is more from you yourself than the characters, saying that this book it's a series of fantasies and ideas and erotic thoughts.
Yeah.
And they're kind of set in a dream world when there are no such illnesses as AIDS or other, I assume, venereal diseases.
Right.
And yet there are things in it which perhaps maybe people would think, well, it's a shame we can't just do that without protection.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's a fantasy. I mean, reading erotica is the safest form of sex you could have, or watching erotica is the safest form of sex. I'm not encouraging people to go out and have unsafe sex. And in fact, I make a point of that in the preface of the book, that my fantasies take place in a perfect world where sexually transmitted diseases don't exist. But just because I say that ass fucking is a way to experience pain and pleasure doesn't mean that to leave out wearing the condom part. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't say that anywhere.
Yeah, the two don't necessarily
Never thought I'd hear an area like this.
exclude one another. Do you, let me ask you, presumably you practice safe sex.
Absolutely.
Do you carry a condom yourself?
Oh, yes, I've got them everywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
People give them to me all the time for some reason, so I never run out of them.
They've probably got phone numbers on them and stuff like
Exactly.
that.
That question, like, the interview just took such a invasive turn, right? Like, that just seems so kind of like, cringe-worthy, TMI, But anyway.
Let me suck your toes, Emma.
But toe sucking is a very safe form of sex too.
I should imagine so. Is it just the
Finger
big toe?
sucking too. No, little toes, but the big toe gives you the most amount of pleasure.
Just as a tip, if someone were to do that.
They have to have clean feet. Forget it.
Well, we're talking about doing it to you, and let's assume you always have clean feet or cleanish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Starting with the toes, would a little nibble round the side of the foot upwards be advisable?
Yes, absolutely.
Pausing maybe in the crook of the knee?
Well, actually, the best thing is to start at the toe and just work your way up.
Fantastic. Oh, and I'm being paid for this. Let me talk about, can I talk specifically about your sexuality? And feel free, if I'm out of line, tell me and we'll just muse on. But obviously there's speculation.
I'll tell you if it's relevant.
Okay. There's speculation always in the press about you, what you do, what you get involved with, who you get involved with. your affairs with men have been detailed quite lovingly, perhaps inaccurately by the press, and obviously your marriage and your relationship with Warren Beatty recently was great fodder for the tabloids. They loved it. And now there's speculation as well about your involvement with women.
Right.
Do you find sex with men preferable to sex with women, or
Yes.
do you enjoy sex with women as well?
Do you want me to? Whatever you want.
Yeah, I think I quite like the idea.
Okay.
But
Well, you know, people have always accused me of being this sort of raving nymphomaniac, and they said things that I did with men that weren't true, and they said things that I did with women that aren't true. I'm very intrigued by bisexuality and homosexuality. That doesn't mean that I necessarily experience it, and I don't think it's relevant. And if people say, oh, she sleeps with women, I don't bother to deny it because I don't think it matters. It's really, who cares? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, so I'm not going to go around going, oh, God, that's not true, that's not true. So, I mean, I don't think it's relevant.
do you think that perhaps there's a positive side to people reading this into your life, insofar as if there were people out there who are perhaps a performer, a famous person who is gay and who is open about that, then it makes it so much easier?
Absolutely. I think that gays need to have more role models, people who are in powerful positions coming out and saying, I'm gay. I think that would be very helpful.
So I feel like this is the second time in the interview I've heard her say that since the Born Ambitionary, number one. And number two, I think like her point was also proven early on in the interview as well, right? Where he asked her about her sexuality and does she prefer, sex with the woman versus man. And she asks him like, well, I paraphrase here, like, would you prefer, would you mind it? And he's like, oh yeah, I would love it. Again, playing into that kind of, well, I am whatever y'all say I am. And hey, whatever.
Let
Absolutely.
me talk something else about the book which occurred to me when I was looking at it, which is there's been much talk about whether it's erotica or pornography, and, I think that's far too muddy water to get into. I don't know. I think it's a personal thing. You draw the line where you will on that. But traditionally,
Yes.
I think, men often use photographs of that type, and I assume women as well, in an aid for masturbation, to enjoy themselves. Has that occurred to you that the book would be used in that way, and is that something that you've dwelt on?
This occurred to me, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fine.
Were there any times when you were doing the photographs when you think, well, this one will work?
No, not necessarily. It's too hard. It's like that's like if I was writing a song, and while I was writing, I was going, wow, this one's going to really go over big. You can't be that way when you're being creative. I think it kills the creative process if you're too outside of yourself, looking at yourself, saying, wow, this is really going to have this kind of an effect.
I read a quote from you, which is a slightly different subject, but I suppose it's linked, which is... In which
I hope it's true.
Well, I hope so as well, but tell me if it isn't. Where you said, pussy rules the world.
Oh.
You say that?
More or less, yeah.
And you also
It's
said...
meant to be,
Slightly ironical.
Exactly.
But with a point.
Exactly.
I think I'm getting the hang of it.
Pushing P, she wasn't lying. But anyway, shout out to this lipstick. I'm watching right now. I'm like, okay, the lips are giving like that Cupid bow, Claire bow kind of look. I'm here for it.
Okay.
But you also said, I believe, that you said you wouldn't want to have a penis. Although, this is the same quote, Michael, although you said you have a dick in your brain.
Right.
What exactly does that mean? And
It
is
means
it
that
uncomfortable?
I think everyone possesses feminine and masculine traits, and I feel if strength and vision and a certain kind of dominant behavior is synonymous with masculinity, which I think it is in our society, then I have those qualities. I have masculine traits in my head, so it's not necessary to have the actual physical apparatus. That's what I meant.
One other thing.
Great answer. I'm here for it. Now, I don't know how well that comment will ball over today and what we got going on, but I understand what she's saying.
Thing that's come up about the book, one other interesting thought that someone's expressed to me is that, in a way, it's almost like it's perhaps it's like a historical document in a way. It's almost as if you are preserving yourself in your prime. You're revealing more of yourself than ever before, or perhaps you ever will again.
Well, then I guess you could say that about anybody who does a movie at whatever age they are when they're young. Was Marilyn Monroe preserving herself in her prime when she did Some Like It Hot? Is Michelle Pfeiffer preserving herself in her prime when she did Batman 2? I mean, what does that mean?
Well, this is
Her
more-
young, beautiful body is forever preserved on screen.
Oh, certainly, but you're actually going a bit further than doing like yet another acting role. You're doing something which you've never done before and you may never do again.
Well, I'm playing characters, and because I think that I look good with my clothes off and I like my body right now, I cast myself in those characters. Maybe if I hadn't done the book now, and 20 years from now I would have done the book, I would have hired some models to do it.
Do you think perhaps that you will be someone who will challenge this kind of taboo of like women losing their sexuality or not being seen as sexual animals as much when they get past, say, 40 or 45?
Yes, I mean, I think that not only do we suffer from racism and sexism and things like that, but we also suffer from ageism, and that is that once you reach a certain age, you're not allowed to be adventurous, you're not allowed to be sexual, and I think that's rather hideous.
And no spoilers, please, but from just what I've seen over the past few years during this journey, starting in the 80s and then, Madonna now causing controversy with different pictures she's posting, things like that. It's ironic that she's suffering what she's talking about here, right? And I don't know. So this is also an issue, right? This kind of dissection here, because some of you guys remarked during the album review that Madonna was already seen as old by some, and I can see that, right? Because she had been out for 10 years by the time Rikers dropped, right? And by this point, just say if you were elementary school age, she came out, like you probably graduated, going off to college at this point. So it's one of the things like, oh, okay, like she's still around. You know what I mean? It's kind of almost like, and again, this is no shade or age is coming. It is what it is. It's right. Beyonce, right? Like, I feel like Beyonce has been around for as long as I've been alive, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, growing up, I remember like, oh, I'm a survivor. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, and I was in, elementary when that dropped. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, I'm grown now, Beyonce's still out doing her thing, and it's just one of those things where you just begin to revere depending on the talent, right? Like, you revere the person, and you're like, well, dang, like, again, this person's been a part of my life so much, and I feel like if you are a part of any fandom, you're always gonna have those ins and outs at times where it's kind of like, I really rock with this sound because I see what they're doing, right? Like, I see it. Or it's like, okay, this is a good look for them for where they at right now. Anyway, I don't mean to derail this comment, but let's get back to it.
And I mean, a lot of people have said, oh, it's so pathetic, or what is she going to do? I hope she's not still doing that in 10 years. I mean, who cares? What if I am? I mean, is there a rule? I mean, what are you supposed to just die when you're 40? I mean, and that's basically what everyone wants people to do, and I think it's stupid. You're just supposed to just kind of, put yourself out to pasture.
And I feel like she's speaking from a perspective of an artist who knows she's getting older, right? Because as you guys mentioned, here at this point in time, there's a whole new crop of artists coming out. You got Mariah, who came out, like a couple years before. And, all these 90s folks, whatever they was doing, right? And I think I was listening to, I want to say it was The Breakfast Club or was it Sway in the Morning? Either way, LL Cool J was on there, and they asked him a question about, of course, the ageism that exists in hip-hop. And he was like, of course, as a young person, it's like, oh yeah, this is a young man game. But of course, your tune changes when you start getting older. It's like, oh, damn, 40. 40's cool, 40's hot. Yeah, I'm not dead. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. This is very interesting. Almost kind of like foretelling in a sense, all right?
Put yourself back in the closet.
Exactly. I mean, why? Life is long. People are living to be, 100 years old. So, I don't get it.
And this is something I know you've been asked many times, but I'm leading hopefully to slightly more interesting, fresher waters with it.
I hope so.
Which is about relationships and having relationships when they're so clearly and obviously followed by the press and documented and information.
Oh, they're not. They may think they know what they're talking about, but they never do.
How much of a strain does it put on a relationship, though? I mean, is it a constant worry?
It depends on the person. You know, it depends on the person. Some people I get involved with really can't deal with people writing stuff about them, even if it isn't true, and that's fine. You know, I mean, the reason people wrote a lot about Sean and Warren was because they were stars in their own right. They had careers in entertainment, so people already knew about them. There's lots of other people that I get involved with that aren't in the entertainment business, and nobody really knows about them. And for that reason, I try to keep their names unknown, because it's not a life they've chosen, you know. So I don't think they necessarily would know how to deal with it the way somebody who's already had, you know, things that they've done reviewed and criticized. I mean, you start to get a thick skin, and you know when someone's taking a shot at you and when they're not. And people who can't handle it generally don't last with me, because, and I respect that, you know. I mean, I've been out with people and they've been in a car with me and there's tons of fans around, the car's being rocked, and I can see they're about to have a cardiac arrest, you know what I mean? They just can't deal with it, and I understand that. That's fine, but this is my life, so.
Do people, men and women, when presumably they come onto you on a fairly regular basis, I certainly would hope so, what kind of things do they say? Is there a standard routine? Is there a kind of ignoring your fame, or is there?
No, nobody can try anything on me. I'm too clever.
What kind of lines do you normally hear?
This girl says she too clever, okay? Madonna, again, always one step ahead, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead, right? She's like, you can't finesse me. I'm the original finesser.
I don't hear lines. I don't.
Okay, so when something happens, when it gets somebody to this kind of
I mean,
thing,
no one's come up to me and said, haven't I seen you somewhere before? Or,
nice toes.
oh dear, I don't know. I mean, I guess the people that if you want to attract my attention, I think the best thing to do, if this is what you're trying to find out, is to basically ignore the celebrity side of me, because if I can tell at all that someone is awestruck by me, then I know that it's not me they're interested in, it's my persona, you know.
Are you a monogamous person, do you think? Is that a lifestyle?
If I'm in love with someone, yes. Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because when you're just with one person, there's a kind of intimacy that grows from that, and you get to know somebody, and someone gets to know you in a way that nobody else has, and it's a good feeling. It's something to accomplish and achieve, I think.
You mentioned Warren Beatty earlier, of course, or I probably brought him up. And a lot of people were surprised when you started that relationship with him, I think, because obviously he had this reputation as this kind of womanizer.
Well, I have a reputation too.
Not quite as, I don't think yours is quite as depressing.
Well, okay.
I mean, his, I think, stuck, you know, I always
Probably because he had it for so long.
Yeah, that's what it just seemed a bit sad. I think it kind of had outstayed its welcome. But that's just me. I'm talking about that. You know, this guy seemed to. Was that part of the appeal though? Did you think? And this sounds like a terrible cliche, and perhaps it is. But did you think perhaps I can tame this man if I want to?
Not at all. When I met Warren, I thought he was one of the most intelligent men I'd ever met in my life. He's experienced a lot. He knows a lot about a lot of things. And when I met him, I said, here's a person I can learn something from. That's it, really. I mean, I know he had a history, but I know that a lot of that is what people made up about him. And the fact of the matter is he was involved with some very interesting, intelligent women. I mean, they weren't a bunch of bimbos, and they all were very independent women. They didn't want to get married and settle down and have children, so that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And no, I didn't think of it at all. I didn't think, oh, I'm going to...
Okay, so Madonna just made a good point out there, okay? So Madonna just made a good point, right? It's just like she said, when you dating somebody who got a reputation, right? Look at the person or the people who they dated, right? Take you back to school. You were like, okay, was he dating, busty girl? Was he dating busty girls? Or, they like girls who had some style, girls who were dripping in the sauce. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, again, also if you're going to date somebody much older, I do feel like you should be learning something from them, right? That's wisdom is what they should be giving you. They should be acting like they're on your age level, even though you're going to bring out like the youthful elements, etc. But I also love here respect how Madonna, in a way, respected Warren to say like, Warren himself is just not no thought. He not no hoochie daddy, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has some strong women in his lineup, you know what I mean? And yeah, maybe I'm giving Warren too much, but anyway, let's go.
Gonna tame him? No, I mean, that's not my style.
Do you think you could have if you wanted to?
Tame him? Well, what does tame him mean?
I don't know, do what Annette Bening seems to have done.
Sure.
Oh, did y'all say Bye Bye Baby was about Annette Bening and the More Baby? I had to Google her to see who she was. So Madonna's like, sure, I could do what she did. But I'm curious to see what's about to be that after statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could have been me.
Do you feel regret that it isn't?
No.
I'm pleased to hear you say that.
Sure.
One of the things, obviously, that you're known for, and you obviously spend a lot of time doing, is helping to raise awareness about AIDS, about people who are HIV positive, and the way society deals with them. And I know there was a rumour that came up a while ago. Someone started a rumour that you were HIV positive, and you dealt with it in a very clever way. I think you came out and said, if this is the kind of stuff that I have to put up with, so be it. You know, it doesn't matter. But I'm curious, if you were to find yourself HIV positive, how would you deal with it? How would you deal with it?
Oh, what a question!
Well, I would certainly say that I was. I mean, I can't go to the bathroom without everybody knowing about it. Plus, I don't think it's anything to be ashamed about, and that's one of the problems with AIDS, is that it's like, you know, people are made to feel that they're lepers and that they have to go and hide in a cave somewhere. I think that the most important thing that I could do is to make an announcement and say that I was HIV positive, and then the next thing would be to stay as healthy as long as possible. That's what I do.
It seems to be not just AIDS, but also just sexual politics, right? Because it would seem to be a very hot issue in America now. Is the political arena something that interests you? I mean, would you want to endorse a candidate over and above just voting for them? Would you go on the trail for someone, do you think?
If I really, really felt passionate about them, it's possible, yeah. Absolutely.
And who will you vote for this time out?
Clinton, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Is that because you believe in...
This is getting like very personal, right? We know about the lady foot fetish, sexual preferences. Asking her like, well, if you had AIDS, how would you react? Now we ask her who she voting for. Again, like very invasive, but somehow this guy, Jonathan Ross, pulls it off.
Been him, or because the others are just such a poor choice?
Well, just put it this way. It's time to get a Democrat in the White House, and he's not my ideal kind of a Democrat. There are a lot of things about his campaign that I don't feel good about. But it's the best thing. It's the best possible situation as far as I'm concerned, so I hardly endorse him.
One final thing, and I know you've been asked this before as well, but I'm going to ask you anyway because, you know, it's something that people always...
But wait, didn't we learn from that video, that commercial we done it, ain't even voted? But okay, to be fair, say endorse.
I think when they read about you and think about you, which is your mother.
Yes.
And you talk about what memories you have of the time with your mother. But yours is a remarkable life. I mean, you do lead a very strange life, don't you? Would she understand it, do you think? Would she approve? Would she like it? How would you share it with her if she were alive?
Who knows? I mean, she hasn't been around for so long. I don't know right now. My idea of my mother, I think, is mostly fantasy because she died when I was so young that at this point, you know, she's like a picture of Jesus Christ, you know. I mean, it's the most perfect picture of a human being that ever existed, and I'm sure if my mother were alive that she would love me and accept me for whatever. I mean, that's the way my father is, and I don't know if she would necessarily agree with everything I did, but she would be my mother.
And have some guy come on, hey, Madge, yes, or whatever he called you, I'm bringing all the guys from the office tonight.
No, absolutely, it's preferable.
It's nicer.
No, he's a very sweet man.
Well, just be nice to him.
I am nice to him, please.
Well, be nicer. Because you've only got one dad.
No shit.
Yeah, well, that's it. I've got it off my chest. But I like the film as well.
Thank you.
Would you do it again? Would you do that kind of thing again?
A documentary?
Or something as revealing as that?
I'd probably do it, but not with me as a subject, somebody else.
Well, I think we're probably out of time. So I want to say thank you very much. It was a great pleasure talking to you.
Time went by so fast.
And say hello to your dad for me.
Okay.
Can I give you a little peck on the cheek? Goodbye.
Sure. Huh. Do you want to suck my toe?
No, no, thanks.
Okay.
No, you apologise.
I've done weirder things.
I'm sure you have. Yeah. So why don't we put a grease paint moustache on while we're at it?
It was a cool interview. I'm here for it. As a matter of fact, I would say you guys did not straighten me wrong this time. This was one of the interviews I really, really enjoyed. A highlight for sure. And as I was sitting here watching this, I remember, you guys go back in the journey, check out my Madonna playlist. Those early interviews, they used to always talk about like this energy Madonna had. Like it was very, especially in her younger years, it was like just jumping out at you. And it was an energy where you couldn't really place it, right? It was like a combination of things. And as I'm sitting here watching her right now, again, like so refined, you know, she seems so chilled out. And so the energy has seemed to kind of like flatline. But then it's like those moments of silence. You look at her and you know her mind is just like churning. She's like one of those people who seems like her mind just never quits. It's just always going and going and going. Anyway, I enjoyed this interview. What about you guys? I'm not into the toe sucking thing, but you have the comments down below what you guys think. The first time y'all heard Madonna say something about ass fucking, like, whoa, what is she talking about? Drop the comments down below. Also, just anything you guys picked up on, drop the comments down below. All right, guys, hope everybody's out there feeling good, staying safe. I'll see you guys next time.